All right. What's going on, everybody? We are live. We are live. I'm coming with 5. Welcome to another episode of G-Boot 2786. This is Gavin Richard. Welcome to Gavin Richard Presents. Give me 1 second. I'm trying to close the damn water bottle. How's everybody doing? I'm trying to get a little more people in the chat room as we're doing this live stream. Who's in the chat room? We got somebody right now. Let me guess. It's either Regina or Squeaky G. I don't know who's in the chat room, but a lot is going on, guys. We're going to just let more people tune in. Say something in the chat room if you're there, because I see somebody's in here. So why don't you say something? I'm going to upload some documents right quick for you guys for our topic that we're going over. Just a lot of shit to cover, man. Hope everybody's enjoying your weekend. It is a beautiful day out here in New Orleans. Very pretty. Very beautiful day. Do something positive. Miriam Israel. Hello, Miriam. How you doing? Who else we got in here? We're going to talk about various issues, man. A lot of shit has been going on these past couple of weeks. Tekashi 6ix9ine is dropping a dime on everybody. You know, I got a new catchphrase for my law firm is that if Tekashi gets ready to drop a dime, you can call Gavin at any time. You know, I think that's pretty cool. You know, he's been snitching from what I've been looking at. He's been telling on everyone from Jim Jones to Cardi B. I think he's even snitching on O.J. Simpson, saying he was there when he killed Nicole. I don't believe that, but he was there when Kennedy got assassinated. He saw the lone dog man on the grassy knoll. Shit, he's saying all kinds of shit. Yeah, I saw something. Yeah, you know, I will say this when people often talk about snitching and so forth. You know, snitches get stitches and so forth. I caution this especially for people in the entertainment industry, people that you don't know, people that you don't trust. I would not share all of my secrets with them. And it looks like Tekashi 6ix9ine was involved, just from what I've been hearing, with a lot of people that he saw a lot of stuff that they entrusted him with. Now, whether he's wrong for snitching, whether he's doing this and doing that, I know there's a code in the streets, just in life, where, you know, snitches get stitches. People don't want to, you don't want to be known as a rat, because obviously you can face penalties of, you know, out in the street, either whether it be death, whether you get harmed, people look at you a certain way, and obviously his career probably is going to take a huge hit. I don't know if he can never come back from that, because, you know, he's telling on Cardi B as well, saying that they're members. I think he said Jim Jones, I know, was a member of the Bloods. He's also said something about Cardi B being in the gang, which, I mean, that stuff doesn't surprise me if it is true, because I know that Cardi B and a lot of women, you know, things that she's done in the past, so forth. But yeah, this is from news here. He says Cardi B is a Blood in federal court. I don't know what to even make of this, whether this is true or not, but it's some shit. So yeah, you got that going on. Miriam, what you were gonna say about Malik Yoba? Because we're gonna get into that in a little bit. But yeah, man, just shit is just awful. But the first topic I want to get into, I want to talk about what happened yesterday, and of course, many of you may know, Antonio Brown was cut from the New England Patriots. Now, this is over a week when he was cut by the Oakland Raiders on September I believe it was a Saturday, September 10th, if I'm not mistaken, or maybe a few days before that. I'm sorry, September, uh, not the 4th, 7th. He was cut by the Oakland Raiders. It's, of course, my connection is unstable. Okay, we're back. New England Patriots, of course, is the staple franchise in the NFL right now. They go to the playoffs every year, and they practically do it without even Pro Bowl wide receivers for their future Hall of Fame quarterback, Tom Brady, just because that system that the New England Patriots has is just that great. And they're the premier NFL organization. In regards to Antonio, they picked him up, and they've had a history, it's fair to say, of picking up players who have had either domestic violence issues or criminal issues. All of those players, certainly you look at having Aaron Hernandez, who was a convicted murderer, although they didn't supposedly know about any of the stuff that was going on. Dante Stallworth, who was a former wide receiver for the Saints. I remember that he had a DUI where he actually killed a man. Josh Gordon, who's playing there on the England Patriots. I think that's interesting. But I don't even find it more interesting is that Antonio Brown gets released for the allegations that he's been facing with sexual assault and misconduct. And Robert Kraft, the owner of the New England Patriots, has trafficking, and I found that hell of ironic that Antonio Brown is released for that, and he was released yesterday, the 20th. I think that the Patriots just had enough of him, and he was a distraction with many of the things that he's brought now. And you saw Bill Belichick being asked at the press conference, both before the Miami Dolphins game that they were playing last week, and even this game, they're playing the Jets this week, that, he was upset, obviously, visibly. You can see that with the press asking all of those questions, and he got short with them. And truth be told, Antonio Brown has not helped himself with the way he's behaved, in particular in Oakland, recording John Gruden's conversation with him. Obviously, in California, it is illegal if you record if you record a phone call and both parties are not aware. So in Louisiana, it's a little different because you have a one-party state where one party can consent, meaning the caller who's recording, he knows it's recorded, he can record that, but not the other individual. Nevertheless, while I think Antonio certainly has his issues, I think he's immature. I think certainly he plays too damn much when he should be all about business when it's time to. I do not know enough to actually say that he raped, assaulted, or harassed any woman. Of course, when you're in the NFL, when you're a multimillionaire, I do know women do throw themselves at you. Does that mean that this man can't not rape anyone? No, of course not. However, when I have the links to the ESPN to the actual complaint, and I also listened to the second accuser, who was an artist that was painting a self-portrait, I believe, of Antonio, from what I read in the Sports Illustrated magazine. What she was claiming was that he had made past her and flushed her, and she says that he sent intent recently. This is this past week. This is an article from Sports Illustrated. This was on Thursday, that Antonio Brown sent text messages, group text, claiming that she was out for money and was asking others to look into her background. She sent this all in a group text, which was so fucking dumb, because once you get accused of stuff like this, you should not have any contact. This is just a little, for anyone in the future predict still an investigation is completed. If you have questions, lawyer up. That's important. You can also not talk to them. You can speak to your private investigator if you hire one and have them look into the situation. Same thing. If you feel you're being extorted, you file a police report. You do things like that. You keep a record, but don't have any contact with the alleged victim or the accuser in this case, I should say. Now, it's important to point out, but with Antonio, I feel that he has basically, if you didn't know any better, from what you're hearing on ESPN and Fox Sports, you would think that Antonio Bryant ran over a group of children in a bus and just ran over a group of children crossing the street. That's the way that he has been portrayed, in this villainous role. He's public enemy number one. He's a trending topic on Google. And I put the article from Sports Illustrated, the one that was about the accuser who says he sent if you look, threatening text messages too, you read this, he states, and the 5 people in this chain, including the accuser, he says, really sad you would wake up, bullshit story to the world, thought you had more integrity and respect for yourself. Money, hard times for to make up some stuff for money, super sad. This is the girl who unfinished my painting in my room from super broke girl with a lot of kids, such a shame. This, her in text, Eric B. Who's his grammar teacher? She's got to be. Let's look up her background history, see how broke this girl is from. Basically cried broke for opportunities. I let paint my room, couldn't finish. I flew out of here. This so sad. Those are kids in Instagram. Eric, she's awfully broke. Clearly, according to that post, she was going for a Meek Mill rally this morning. So he's talking to people in his team, and I think he included his attorney. But there was no way. I'm not going to say that he couldn't do an investigation in that, but there's no way you include the actual person into that story, especially when they have an attorney and a possible pending lawsuit against you, man. You got to think twice about that. And I don't, honestly, in truthfulness, while I think you can be an asshole, does an asshole mean you're a rapist? Does it mean you're this mean monster that the way the media has portrayed you? Probably no, it doesn't. I can honestly tell you, I have met people that, celebrities. I did meet Paul Mooney, for instance, once, and he autographed my book, but he was not, completely friendly, not open. I felt he was a dick a little bit. But with the stuff that he's being accused of raping Richard Pryor Jr. by Rashawn Khan, Richard Pryor's former bodyguard, I would not say Paul Mooney committed that crime because I don't know. First off, I don't have the evidence to that, and I wouldn't base it because he was ugly with me. I've seen the 5150 show. I know Corey Holcomb. I respect him as a comedian and so forth. But and I know he said reasonably, and it wasn't a great one. But I would not do that and call, a person a rapist or a child molester just because I heard that. And I know sometimes we do that based on our personal experiences where we attack someone and in their moment of, I don't want to say the word defeat, but when they're in a moment of unfortunate circumstances or misfortune, I should say, jeopardy, their career is in jeopardy. I don't really go to the standpoint where I'm going to be, shaming this person. And I feel, when you watch Fox Sports, and I was listening to Shannon Sharpe, and I was just disappointed at the way the brother was even talking, because you would think, especially being a black man in America, and Shannon talks about it all the time, how easy it is for men to get accused, especially black men, of rape or misconduct without proof. And that's what is missing from all of this. You go on ESPN, you go on Sports Illustrated, they say it's intimidating text messages. They even use terms on Fox Sports, threatening and harassment, which is what I kind of got from Shannon. But nothing from these emails stated that he threatened her in any way physically to do any harm. I didn't see any of that. So yeah, it's not a smart move, and yes, he shouldn't have contact with her. I thought that was dumb on his part. But am I going to call him a rapist? Am I going to say he's threatening? Am I going to make him the monster of the world? No. And further, when you look at Sports Illustrated, and this is why we need Black media, Black press, we need actually our own network where we have Black anchors that deliver the news that come on, because is that they'll sometime, when they get Stephen A. Smith and Max Kellerman on First Take, which I can't really stand anymore, and they have Malik Yoba who just talks over everybody all the time, they'll say and comment on things that they know very little about. For instance, I'm gonna give you a perfect example, and I heard this with my own ears when Max Kellerman is talking, when they were talking about the first complaint that Brittany Blair filed against Antonio Brown. And they talked about, well, she's not even asking for a lot of money because she's saying the damages are $75,000. Max Kellerman said that. The reason and they have lawyers that come on ESPN. They had a Black lawyer that was on there after this complaint was filed, which was on September 10th, and they talked about it. But they don't mention, and this is why it's important, you have attorneys that are there to comment, is that when you say, when you talk about the amount of damages that she was claiming, the reason why it's $75,000 is because in order to get jurisdiction in federal court, this is just a little, for those that want to look this up, it's diversity jurisdiction. I believe the code article is 1332, a federal procedure. That's on, 1332, 29 United States Code 1332. When there's what's called diversity jurisdiction, the amount in controversy has to exceed $75,000. That doesn't mean she's asking for $75,000 like Max Kellerman was saying. So don't comment on shit unless you clearly read it and you get attorneys on there that know what they're talking about. Stephen A. Smith has done this countless times, where Stephen A. Smith will be on and he talked about how he could have beat Johnny Cochran in the O.J. Simpson trial. Give me a break, nigga. You couldn't even find out who the fuck is your barber that you would say some shit like that. Beat that. I could have beat Johnny Cochran. I was going toe to toe with him. Johnny would have made mincemeat out of your ass. Really, I want to know who Stephen A. Smith's barber is, because that head, that lining, that what if the African American Jason Voorhees haircut. But y'all commenting, talking about stuff, and I've spent 20 minutes talking about Antonio Brown, but I wanted to mention that part. When you say $75,000, that's why there's diversity. There's diversity jurisdiction, meaning two parties from two different states. She's from Tennessee and he lives in Florida. So that's diversity. But Antonio kind of brought this on himself. But I don't think I don't know if he's the violent predator that he's being made out to be. And especially it didn't help. And as I'm talking about having Black-owned network and so forth, you obviously will look at the Sports Illustrated article that was published a week ago. And Dr. Boyce Watkins talked about it. When we talk about the O.J. Simpson case, they purposefully, and I don't know if this was actually done with the intent of malice to darken Antonio's skin color or not, but he compared how they darkened the O.J. Simpson Time magazine, where you see Time magazine cover, where you see O.J. holding his roll numbers, his booking numbers when he's getting booked in jail for murder with Nicole Brown Simpson and Ron Goldman. For Nicole Brown Simpson and Ron Goldman, they darkened his skin color on purpose. They darkened the image, and even in the image with Antonio Brown, and you look at the article that was published by SI, that picture is darkened as well, as if it gives an ominous mention of something bad. It's, it's disastrous. And this picture of Antonio has him frowning, almost, looking down. So it's not a surprise. And this was September 16, 2019. Robert Clemenco was the author of that article. So I would not put it past anyone or outside that they did this on purpose, because we live again in America, and we live in a time where racial prejudice and bigotry is rampant. Of course, and that goes to Candace Owens. I'm not going to get there just yet. And of course, it may not be what it was in the 1960s, where you had signs that said whites only, but now you have it where it's more subtle. You have it now where you may not have to let someone in your restaurant. You can let someone in your place of business, but now we're going to be we can still be rude with them. We can control everything, and that, the money around them. Obviously, we don't have enough black-owned banks. We can set up businesses like some of these Asian store owners do, as you saw what happened in Chicago, where they have these nail salons where their workers, nail technicians, are rude to these black women, and yet black women will get there and still support these owners, and they will still, give their monies to them, while on the other hand, we won't support each other. So that's why it's important to have those type of a black-owned network, so that we can actually do business, so that we can actually support each other. I'm not going to keep rambling, guys. So next thing I want to talk about, of course, was Malik Yoba. I know Miriam Israel but I was listening to the Breakfast Club interview. I couldn't stomach all of it, honestly, but I listened to Jason Black's analysis of the Breakfast Club interview. I also listened to Sister Nicole from Nicole's View, her analysis of it. And Jason Black went through it and dissected it. So I'm not going to spend too much time on it. But what I did want to talk about that in connection with Malik Yoba doing an interview with the Judge Joe Brown show. And Malik Yoba was explaining himself about his trans attraction, his work in it, and what he's doing, trying to get the black community behind it. And of course, when it was time to bring on the judge, and we know the judge, he's a friend of ours here, Judge Joe Brown was asking some tough questions, saying, why is something like this being pushed? Why are you pushing this agenda? And more along the lines with all of the problems that Black America has right now, he said there are a lot of people wondering, why is this such an important event, especially if it can't produce life? And and it breaks up the family. And Malik Yoba was, obviously, he wasn't even explaining himself. He was trying to say, well, that's how you see it, sir. You say that I've never said I've slept with a man. I've never said I don't see it that way, that it's not breaking up the family. And of course, Judge Joe Brown said, well, that's all we can do is see through the lens of what we are given and the evidence that's presented with us. And he even read out the jury charge. This is what I even asked jurors to do. And Malik Yoba couldn't take the pressure, and he hung up on the phone. Of course, I think Tarika, she calls him Malik Yogurt, which is funny. And in connection with that, in the Breakfast Club interview, that hot mess, I believe it actually has over 20,000 dislikes versus 7,000, 3,000. Like, there's more dislikes than likes. Kind of like the Gillette commercial that came out earlier this year. But it was horrible to watch that interview. And I couldn't stomach it, mainly because when these guys are given a platform, I say guys, I use that term correctly. They're given a platform, they bring Malik Yoba out there with the gay man, David Johns, and two other men, I mean, these are people that are men, but they identify or call themselves females, that they come on to the Breakfast Club and they're basically given a platform to speak and spew rhetoric that didn't even make any sense, that wasn't even logical in what they were saying. And it was clear that they were pushing an agenda because as you listen to the interview, Malik talks about how they're sponsoring some type of event that's coming up in September in Washington, D.C., a trans march. He talks about how they they were using all of these different terms, and the gay man, David Johns, I say gay man, but he identifies as gay, David Johns, he's correcting everything Malik Yoba is saying. And when he's talking about the term in particular, I listened to the term when he said naturally born women that get offended by this. And David Johns corrects him, said, no. We say gender assigned because nothing is natural about that. What the fuck are you saying? I mean, how do you go to that? Why we're listening to people that don't think there's anything natural with being a man and being a woman. And you're looking for them for guidance to talk about these issues that they want to push this shit as law? What the hell? Everything that came out of their mouths was bullshit. And what made it worse, I was disappointed with the Breakfast Club. I was disappointed with Charlamagne. I was disappointed with Angela Yee and DJ Emmy, because even Angela Yee, who is a natural woman, she could have corrected them or at least engaged. And that was my biggest take with that, was that I felt that they didn't want to say anything to offend them. And we're walking on eggshells in this country where everyone is going to get offended to the point where nobody can say anything. And men are not going to ask women out on dates. This Me Too thing has ruined that as well. There are men who have come out and said, they don't want to get in trouble. Like Henry Cavill said, the guy who played Superman in Man of Steel. He says that Me Too has changed how he's looked at women, how he's dating, how he approaches them. Same thing with, and even some women are having issues with it because they are not getting approached, like talking about it, because it's just changed things. Everybody is offended by something. And so in listening to that interview, when they don't, they were rudely correcting Malik Yoba, interrupting him, talking about put in the work. You got to do the work. You got to do the work. You got to say this. You got to say that. You never talk to me about what I am. You answer for me. You call me a cisgender. A cisgender. I don't even know what the fuck that means. I understand it's supposed to be, my understanding, a heterosexual male or a heterosexual female. We're changing what it is to be, I'm just going to say it, to be human. What we've known for the last 6,000 years in natural human history, male and female, is now being challenged. And Malik Yogurt is adding to that bullshit. And he did not even have, in tying in with the Judge Joe Brown show, he hangs up on the show. They weren't allowed a lot of time, I believe, to even talk with each other. And when, I understand he said he only had a few minutes left, but to hang up the phone and not even finish the conversation, or to let the host and to let the Judge Joe know something happened with my phone, or I had to go, didn't even call back, didn't even send a text message. And the host of the show was clearly upset when you listen to the interview. I've posted the link to it on my description video, guys. Malik Yo, it's ridiculous what they're trying to pull. And we can't be afraid to speak our minds. We can't let stuff like that slide. Like what Angela did, she let that slide. But Judge Joe didn't let it slide. He addressed what the issue was, what the people are thinking about. People are tired of being bullied. And honestly, whenever I want to support, I don't know if I would say the word support, but I want to listen. I want to be open-minded. And I do want to hear what People, I understand there's such thing as diversity, and yeah, people are different, and diversity is a good thing. However, some things also just don't belong either. We may be the same, as in we're all part of the same human family, but we are different in ways. There are things that men can do and there are things women can't do. And when we push this notion in society now that there's no such thing as naturally born male, naturally born female, what are we sending? What message are you sending to the children? Because now you're trying to, and that's a big problem that I have. We're corrupting the youth into thinking there's no such thing as male and female, or they need to decide what they want to be. Everything that's in nature, you can look. I don't care if you're talking about insects, whether you're talking about animals, you can tell the difference between a male and a female in that species. If you look at a lion and a lioness, okay, that's a male and that's a female. When you look at, as far as not just their genitalia, also you look at deer, reindeer, for instance. I'm just thinking about that. Males may grow their bucks during a certain season, and females will shed and have their bucks during a certain season. Their antlers. I'm sorry, excuse me. I said bucks. There is such thing as nature. And I'm not even looking at it from a religious standpoint, but there's a difference between male and female. That's science. If you look at it even from a scientific standpoint, the stuff that they are saying is foolish. How could we even survive if you think about it logically? This is nothing to do with religion. This has nothing to do with even morals, but I'm just asking you to think logically. If everyone were homosexual, I'm just thinking about this, or transsexual, someone, and how could the world survive? How could we survive without children, without procreation? Because it is through nature that copulation comes forth, and through nature, between a male and a female of the same species, they can produce life. Now, you have a right to live the way that you want to live. You have a right to speak your mind and express yourself. However, some things don't go, and everybody else has a right to speak their mind. Some people are not going to agree with what you say. That's just the way it is. And a lot of people are frustrated that this stuff is being pushed on us. And in listening to that interview that Judge Joe Brown did, he mentions all of that, and people are upset. And then a caller during the interview even talked about how pedophilia now, and this is true. I've looked at it. I've heard about this. I do know that the DSM manual, the recent manual in 2014, I believe, they had removed pedophilia as a mental disorder, they have removed it, I believe, as a mental disorder. There are articles that I've read where people have called pedophilia a natural sexual orientation. Now, even if you look at the original gay manifesto from the 1970s, they talked about removing age of consent laws. Now, let me be clear with this. I'm not saying every person who is gay rapes children or is going to hurt children. I would never characterize an entire group like that. I want to be clear with my comments. That is not true. That every person is, it's like I don't think every white person is evil. I don't believe that. But what I do believe is that, and I do know from facts, there are people in that group, the LGBT group, that have worked with men who were pedophiles. There is a group called NAMBLA. They have been these groups. I've heard that march in these some of these homosexual parades. That has happened. Now, what's going to happen in a few years? Is that going to be pushed as the next civil right? I believe it may be. Who's in the chat room? Y'all been with me for 35 minutes. Give me a shout out. Miriam, are you still there? I don't know if Miriam is. She had a question. Then, well, that's enough of Malik Yoba. But the next thing I was going to transition to is Candace Owens. I saw her. I read about the statements that she made about white nationalism and white supremacy, and I posted an article that she said white supremacy is indeed real, but despite the media's obsessive coverage of it, it represents an isolated, uncoordinated, and fringe occurrence within America, she told the lawmakers assembled before her. The new face, 2 hours into the session held by, and I'm just reading through it, guys, I'm not going to read the whole thing. 2 hours, then more than 2 hours into the session held by House Oversight and Reform Subcommittees on National Security and Civil Rights and Civil Liberties, another hearing witness addressed Owens directly. Earlier, Owens had called it hilarious that her fellow panelists did not provide specific numbers on the death toll from white supremacist violence. I just have to say I object strenuously to your use of the word hilarious, said fellow witness Kathleen Bello, a University of Chicago professor who studies white nationalism, glancing toward the right-wing pundit 2 seats down. She noted Owens' response earlier this year after it was revealed that she was named as an inspiration in writings by the Christchurch, New Zealand mass suspect. A tweet from Owens that began with LOL was panned by critics as insensitive. Now, when you have a Candace Owens who is a Republican, and she's talked about how Black people should vote more Republican because Democrats, part of that, notion, Democrats have done nothing for the Black community. And that may be true indeed, that the Democrats have neglected the Black community in many ways. I do believe that. There is such a thing as benign neglect policies that have been in place in the 80s that, if you listen to Tariq Nasheed, he goes in depth about it, where they discuss how you address a whole group of people but ignore a certain group of people. So for instance, when you say the term minorities or minority coalition, Blacks are considered minorities. This is true, but Hispanics are also considered minorities. White females are considered minorities. Gays are considered minorities. Jews are considered minorities. Muslims may be considered minorities because they're looked at as a disenfranchised group, although truth be told, African Americans are the most disenfranchised group in history. And while Candace Owens, I'm gonna mince my words, and I've agreed with some of the, believe it or not, a broken clock can get the time right once. There's some things she said I have agreed with, but I know deep down she's trying to get that check. And this is her way to do that. When she, speaks up for the Republicans and she talks conservative and so forth. And truth be told, yes, Black people do tend to be conservative with things, but we also got to deal with this racist system that has been in place for hundreds of years since our ancestors arrived in slave ships. You see, she won't touch on that. And T.I., and I know she spoke last week on Revolt Television with Diddy, that Diddy put on, where T.I., Killer Mike, and Killer Mike checked both T.I. and Candace Owens, saying, y'all, these are two people fighting for the same master. And basically what he was talking about is how we want to support, don't want Trump in, but at the same time, we're going to vote for someone who, while maybe not as vulgar as Trump, the policies in place will still remain the same with Trump than it was when Trump was in office. And so how does this benefit us? And, my whole thing, though, is that they will get a Candace Owens out here basically to try and get and push racist rhetoric or push rhetoric like white supremacy is not an issue, racism is not an issue in America, and white nationalism is not an issue in America, or it's minute, or it's while it's real and so forth. You know, ignoring the history of blacks in America where we have been mistreated by a result of racism and white supremacy. Now, is it the only thing we should be focusing on as black people? Or should not we focus on our own issues? Yes, absolutely. There is a crisis in the home. I believe that. I know that there's a crisis with, children being born with by mothers who don't want the child to have anything to do with the father. That stuff goes on. I see it every day in court. There is a crisis with that. And yeah, there is a moral crisis in society. I believe even with the gun violence, I don't believe it's a gun problem. I think it's a human problem. It's a problem basically where someone's heart or in someone's mind, they've flipped. They don't believe in God, but they want to do something so evil, so dastardly, without even thinking twice about it. And that is a moral crisis in America. But to say white supremacy and white nationalism does not play a large function in our society. When you look at the way our criminal justice system is set up, you clearly see the impact of white supremacy. That's what it was built on. I see it every day when I go in court here in Louisiana. There are courthouses, and shout out to my brother, Niles Hamer, who's running for judge, juvenile court. I have seen Confederate monuments in front of courthouses, and our brother, Mr. Hamer, has actually tried to get and petition to get those removed from those courthouses because of the message it sends to African Americans that go to court, possibly on criminal charges, for instance, and when they see a monument like that, when they see a monument of the fallen Confederate soldier, it sends a message, a subliminal message to them that this is still our land, boy. This is still our time, boy. And it's not just even in the South. Of course, we have that up in the North as well. The police departments. You had an FBI report that was released in 2006 where they talked about where the FBI talked about police departments that were in their high-ranking officers associated with white nationalist groups. See, she'll ignore shit like that. But we get people like that. They put them on, they obviously put them out on camera. Black people like her, like Larry Elder, who I couldn't stand. I haven't heard from Larry Elder in a long time. I don't want to hear from him. He's a flat-out coon. Charles Barkley to a large degree, because Charles Barkley will say some dumb shit on live television like he did after Ferguson. And he even came to Baltimore after Freddie Gray, and those people chewed him out. I saw, and he just sat there and took it. Because they bring niggas like that because they know if they say anything like they do regularly out in public, people will call them racist. They know that. And so they hide behind this blackface so that they can get away with it. There's some things, I think a lot of what they're doing is bullshit. I'm leaning more, I consider myself more independent. Because I don't choose between Satan or the devil. I look at what's in my best interest. If there is even someone that's, let's say, in the Constitutional Party, if there was someone in the Green Party that represented the issues that I felt was necessary, I would vote that way. But I don't vote blindly for people. And I don't like the fact that, but she's not an independent. She's clearly a conservative Republican, Candace Owens. And it was just disgusting to hear her say or read the things that she was saying. So it just started raining here. So yeah, man, there's just a lot that's been going on. And you know, guys, I try not to ramble when I talk. I try not to stutter as hard when I'm trying to think about the next line sometimes and how I'm transitioning. But I appreciate everyone that's stayed on. Shit. So I am getting ready to watch some football, college football. And this is another issue too. In some states now, they are requiring, I know in California now, but they've passed a bill where they're proposing that the college athletes get paid by their schools directly. That was on September 10th. Congress passed the bill. I'm reading here on USA, from Sports Illustrated. Of course, California Assembly passes legislation to pay athletes. Now, of course, that's got to be signed by the governor. The Assembly passed the bill, says 66-0 on Monday, a few days after the bill got an endorsement from LeBron James, who did not go to college. Of course, the Senate has to vote on that, and then of course Congress would have to. The governor would have to sign that, and that is going to set up a clash with the NCAA, who obviously does not want to pay student athletes. I think that student athletes should get a cut of the money that they are making for these colleges, as these colleges are making multi-billions of dollars off of these kids' sweat and hard labor. And these children, these kids, sometimes, of course, they can go professional and make millions of dollars, but you're faced with student loan debt. You're faced with taking care of your entire family. You go to college where you still have to learn and get an education and basic necessities that you're not going to get, that you have to pay for still. And while your school makes billions of dollars from your hard work, they won't provide for you. All student athletes don't get scholarships. Let's just be real with that. So for those kids, for those young men who play football that need money and access, I think that they should be compensated for it. Certainly, if they're not going to give them, I don't know if they would get multi-millions of dollars per se, like a professional athlete. But if it pay, I think every athlete should have their school, their student loans taken care of. If they're playing football, I think any, college athlete, all those athletes that play on a Saturday, they should get something that goes towards that. I believe that, obviously taking care of their room and board and, basic necessities. I think that those should be provided for, perhaps from payments from the NCAA. And you're talking about a multi-billion-dollar company. Of course, they can afford something like this, but typically, and this still goes back to the Antonio Brown thing, what you have here is, it appears to be even slave labor. I've even thought about that, call them $1 million slaves. There's actually a book called $1 Million Slaves, where they discuss things of that nature about how these athletes are supposed to, they're taught by their agents, by their handlers, how they're supposed to interact, which is why you don't see so many athletes, professional-wise, will come out and speak out against certain things. Of course, LeBron James, he does do some stuff, but LeBron James, I remembered when a young child, Tamir Rice, was murdered by that pig in Cleveland. LeBron James said he didn't know anything about it. And this is right in his hometown of Akron, Ohio, not outside of, he's playing for the Cleveland Cavaliers. You're the star athlete in that city, the biggest thing they've ever had. And you didn't know about Tamir Rice. So, guys, it's almost been an hour. I'm actually going to hit the gym. Later tonight, I'm going to go out with the family, go see Eddie Griffin live. I think Eddie's going to be great. Eddie Griffin is a comedy legend, so enjoy seeing him. He was in Shreveport last night, Bossier City, so he's in New Orleans for one night only. So I think that's going to be good, and I'll tell y'all a little bit about it probably on the next show. But you guys have a great Saturday. Get some food, relax, watch a game. I'm going to go actually hit the gym in a little bit. I thought about going to see a movie. I might do it tomorrow before any other games. But what y'all think? What y'all think about the latest Rambo? Anybody seen it? Anybody heard reviews on Rambo: Last Blood? No, no one said anything. All right. Well, that has been this latest episode. I hope you enjoy, you guys. Hope to talk to you guys again. Y'all be blessed. Have a good one. Who's ever in the chat room that has stayed with me, please say something. All right. Well, that's it. Y'all take it easy. Love you.